next episode on this series of our Scottish Dirk build. On our last one, you remember, we went ahead and got the handle fit to the blade. I've got everything fitting pretty good across where this junction of the hilt to the blade base is. I'm happy with it now. And again, the blade is shaped in a crescent form here across the bottom, and the handle correspondingly to match. And I just slowly remove wood and metal till I get a nice tight fit across there. On the haunch portion down here, I've shaped it in sort of a radius. You can see on the cross section there. And again, whatever type of dirk you're making, they're all a little bit different. This is an early one that's going to have these two haunches carved into it. You just need to take your time and try as close as you possibly can to match it to the original that you're trying to replicate. Each one is a little bit different. As the dirks evolve, they change. And just for comparison, this one, as I said, is just going to have, get in here and point with this other knife, these two haunches carved into it. As time went on, the dirks became more and more elaborate. There's a lot more protective hardware that would be made and incorporated into them. And just for comparison, here is another dirk that I'm working on for a customer, and you can see this one has a lot more hardware attached. It's got these side straps. They were incorporated in later into the early 18th century to protect these ends, because when this gets hit, obviously it can damage the wood. So a little bit later time period, you've got the side straps going in. Also, the top portion of the dirk now has a band or a guard that's been made and fit around it. That also helps protect the top of the dirk, adds another more decorative element. And occasionally you'll see inlays start to be placed in there, and more elaborate carving taking place on the haunches. You see we've got trinity knots carved in there now. So just a comparison of how these things changed. Again, this one is, and I'm actually going to be showing this dirk off at a later time point. It's being made for a customer. This one's 1730s, 1740s. And this other one is earlier. We've got a planar form going on. As I said, we're going to have these two haunches carved in here, and that's going to be just about it for the decoration of the upper portion of the handle. This kind of falls into the line of shaping, sort of carving. So that's when I talk just a little bit about my carving setup. This is pretty much all I use to do my dirk carving, from general shaping on the haunches to the intricate Celtic knot work and interlace that we're going to put on it later. You can go out and spend hundreds, perhaps thousands of dollars on wood carving sets, and I suppose, you know, you get what you pay for. But this is just a cheap set that I bought from Hobby Lobby. I think it was less than $6, and it's got all the general shapes in there. It's got flat chisels, angle chisels, it's got a couple of small gouges and skew chisels, and this has pretty much done everything that I've needed it to do when carving these dirk handles. Just a couple of things: if you do buy a set, as I said, this one came from Hobby Lobby, a cheaper set. A couple of things you will have to do: some of the blades were loose, so I just epoxied them back in there. And the most important thing, even on high-end chisels, you will need to make sure that they are sharp. Razor, hair shaving sharp. Anything less than that and you're just going to struggle. It's not going to do a good job. And if you don't know how to effectively sharpen various cutting tools, chisels and so forth, learn how to do it and make sure you have good sharp edges on your tools. It'll make the job much easier. So the next step, as I said, we're going to go ahead and get set up to start carving these haunches in here. So I will chuck this dirk up in the vise and continue on to our next step. Alright, so I've got the dirk chucked up in my vise. This contraption here is a specialty, I guess, attachment you could call it, for a vise. It works in any vise. They sell these. This is just kind of a crude homemade one that works good. It's nothing more than a 2-inch pipe and then it has two pieces of wood radius to fit the top and the bottom. They just fit in there loose, and your blade can go in between those two pieces of wood. And then I have two screws threaded in that you can torque down, put good tension on it. And then this allows you to rotate the knife or the dirk or the handle, whatever you're working on, 360 degrees all the way around. So whatever angle you need, you just loosen the vise and rotate it. That's very helpful when you start carving these things, especially as we get into the intricate lace work on this. Right now what I'm going to do is, just like I said, work on these haunches, and you can see I've got some pencil lines drawn in there. I didn't show that because, again, every single dirk is different when it comes to the shaping. So what you have to do is just pay close attention to whatever original you're trying to replicate, and then do whatever it takes to get the flow and the style of that original, because everyone's different. Every single maker that made it did it slightly different. So whatever you need to do to match it, do your best. So I've got these two lines drawn out that are going to start to form the haunches. When it comes to carving, basically the way that I do this is you lay out your design, of course, in pencil, and then you'll take a I like to take my angle chisel, see that one there, and then just gently stick it into the wood and push it along my lines. Now I use two hands to do this, and in my left hand I have a glove on, because what I'll do, again, this might get this other light on here. It's a little too bright. What I'll do is I'll stick it in and take behind the back side of the chisel, and with my thumb resting on my fingernail, I'll gently push that along. You don't have to go fast. You can take it easy, go real slow. Another way you can do it is just to simply push in, go up a fraction of an inch, push in, fraction of an inch, push in, until you've got your design outline. That's the first thing you have to do when it comes to carving these things, is your pencil lines have to be outlined with either, a small straight chisel or an angle one like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do the first line, and essentially what you're going to do with your design is you have to retrace it with the knife. So start out, going to go ahead and stick it into the line, and then gently, be as careful as you can, stay on the line and start bringing it around. You go fairly deep. You don't have to push in for all it's worth. If you can't move it when you're pushing it, then you're in too deep, but you want to go deep enough that this forms a nice outline. And then I have a center line mark there that I'm going to stop on where these two points meet, or apexes. So that was one side. I've got 4, so 1 down, 3 to go. So I'll just repeat that process for the other corresponding lines. Alright, so I've gone ahead and traced with the angle cutting chisel my basic outline on both sides. You can see I've kind of got these curves, gentle curves here that form into a point. So what I'm going to do next is take this small straight chisel and just come back a little bit off of that line at a slight angle, push down until I get a piece of wood to pop up. And that's going to start to cause these haunches to be revealed and sort of have a outward appearance. Relief carving, we're going to essentially remove the background. So all this wood right in here in between these two haunches is now scrap. So we're going to remove the background, and that's going to reveal the haunches is going to come up. Basically that's what you're doing when you're carving. When it comes to the knot work, you're kind of shaping and removing background at the same time, which of course I will demonstrate. But to get these haunches to pop now, as I said, we're going to butt into this cut line with our chisel and then remove this background slowly. So you can practice all this stuff on scrap pieces of wood. That's what I did when I was learning it. It's not a good idea to have your finished dirk and your handle all done as far as the shaping goes, and then attempt to carve it having never done it before. You will screw it up. and all your hours of work will be for naught if you don't have a decent carving. So practice on scraps, and then when you feel confident there, move on to the real thing. So I'll demonstrate this here for just a minute so you can see how it goes. Again, you can see I'm just off about a 1/16 of an inch from that line, and just slowly working my way around and button it into that in cut or stab cut, some people call it. Okay, and then I'm just pushing in a little further back and removing this background. Now it's going to take a while to do this to get exactly how I want, but that's basically what you're going to do. So hopefully that's picking up on camera. Just slowly work your way around, pushing in, and then drop back and just keep removing this background. And you're going to do that the whole way around till you get these haunches more defined.